Welcome everybody to our Q3 WA Qlik User Group. It's great to see you all here, and I believe more people will join us. Our agenda today, we will start with Nabeel, who will talk about what's new in Qlik. Then Harper will share how to navigate time periods, but it will be quite technical. Next one, it would be my presentation about pixel perfect reporting in Qlik Cloud, but I will try to keep it business side. So yeah. After that, we've got just quick wrap up and the networking session at 6 o'clock. Downstairs, it's James Street Bar, just downstairs. So Nabeel, over to you. Yep.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Nabeel from Qlik. I'm based out of Melbourne. Sorry I couldn't join you today. So yeah, a quick update on what's new. So there's two sides to what.
Share this screen.
I just started sharing. Yeah.
You started sharing. Okay.
Ooh,
I will reshare. Sorry, it's a technical difficulty. Yes, please start sharing.
All right. Is that working?
Yes. Great. Thank you.
Great. So, what was the thing? Yes, so for analytics, there's really two kinds of things we're doing at Qlik. So one is just continuous improvements. Since this is a user group, people use Qlik Sense. I think you'll be interested in those little things we're improving. So I'll spend a few minutes there.
Excuse me, Nabeel. I think you are sharing your own screen. It says experience the power of Qlik. Is it what you are after? Or you were sharing something else?
Yes, that's just the website. Yeah, I'll switch.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Good.
And after that, we'll look at one of the big recent announcements, a brand new product Qlik has launched called Qlik Answers. So I'm starting here just to, this is our demo website. I just want to show that if you log in there, there's always a what's new app available there. And that gives you a good overview of what's recently been released in Qlik Sense. And this does focus on Qlik Sense client managed as well, which a lot of you will be using instead of just Qlik Cloud. So this is what that app does. It tells you in the recent 3 releases or so what's come up, and it gives you examples, right? So for example, recently we launched cyclic dimensions in Qlik Sense. And those of you who've used Qlik View will know this was there in Qlik View. It's now here in Qlik Sense, where you can just have a dimension that has multiple different fields that it refers to, and by clicking a button, all your charts change what they're showing. And then there's little things like button improvements or table improvements, right? So if you're interested in that kind of detail, it's great to grab that app and have a play with it. And it'll tell you which release you need to be on to have those kind of improvements in your deployment of Qlik. Right, so there's a whole lot of things we've released over the last few months in terms of visualizations, so better pivot tables, all the things that people who actually use Qlik Sense care about, because there's always that little bit of improvement you can put into your apps. So one of the big changes that we launched this year was the Qlik layout container object. Some of you will probably be familiar with it. So it's now available on client managed as well. What it does is it allows you to build these really customized look and feel to your Qlik Sense apps, right? So this is a standard Qlik Sense app. It's not using any extensions, but it's got that really great web page kind of look and feel, and it looks very customized, right? So you can do that with the layout container object, because it allows you to show and hide different objects. You can have multiple layers of objects, and together with the new coloring options and transparencies and so on, you can build something really cool looking now. Right, so that's really what I had in terms of the incremental improvements we're doing in terms of visualizations. If something piqued your curiosity, I'm sure Sergey can give you more details. So now we'll move on to, is there any questions before I move on? All good? Yep. All right, cool. So the next thing we wanted to cover was that big product announcement, right? So there's the incremental stuff and there's the strategic and brand new stuff. So in that side, we've got Qlik Answers. So this is something we launched at Qlik Connect this year recently. It's our generative AI solution that works on top of unstructured data. So it's very different from what Qlik is known for, because it's all about structured data with Qlik Sense. Qlik Answers works on unstructured documents. So if you think of things like this PowerPoint presentation, Word documents, PDFs, tickets in a case management system. So lots and lots of text is always there somewhere in a business, right? But it's usually underutilized because it's hard to find, it takes time to find something relevant, and all those problems. So Qlik Answers, that's really the problem it tries to address, is how do you get the answers quickly when you need them, right, into the hands of the people who work with all this information. So what you'll see, I will give you a little demonstration, is this changes that traditional search experience. Like if you've got lots and lots of documents in SharePoint, for example, or Confluence and so on. The general experience is you've got to go and search, it'll give you a list of content, you have to look through it, and then you might find something useful. So this experience can be completely changed with generative AI, and specifically with what's called retrieval augmented generation, RAG, right? So RAG for short. What it does is it uses those large language models on top of your own curated knowledge repositories, right? So let's say you pointed at a repository of documents from Confluence, that's what you can get answers from. So they're personalized and relevant. So you're changing from that content dump kind of experience to Q&A, and yet it's still reliable because it's based on your documents that you allow the LLM to work on, okay? So that's really the use case for Qlik Answers. It's a generative AI solution that helps you build these assistants, these AI assistants, which you point to different document repositories. And so you can very easily build these domain-specific AI assistants that help you answer questions in real time. And let's just go and see what that means. All right, so this is a Qlik Cloud only solution because generative AI just lives on the internet. We use Amazon Bedrock under the hood if you're curious. But it works as a service in Qlik Cloud. So in your standard Qlik Cloud tenant, if you've got Qlik Answers in your subscription, you see you're able to build assistants right here. And you can also point Qlik Cloud to different knowledge bases, which you can use with those assistants, okay? So we won't build stuff right now. We'll just use something we built before. So for example, I've got a knowledge base here on my product maintenance reports. So it's coming from SharePoint, and you can see it's got lots and lots of different documents in there, about 197 pages in this case from 98 documents. And on top of that, we've built an assistant so that can answer questions on product maintenance reports, right? So that's our assistant working on top of the knowledge base. And you can have multiple assistants. I'll show you later. There's an HR one and so on. And they can use multiple knowledge repositories, right? So it's a lot of flexibility in how you create these assistants. And then you can use them to ask questions. So I can say, what are the specifications of the bread maker, for example? So that's what this is really good at. If you've got a needle in the haystack, it really quickly gives you the answer, right? So it's given me the specifications of the bread maker. And I can see where that answer came from, right? So there's an explainability of where this answer came from. And if it doesn't have a source for the answer, it'll say that I can't answer that question, right? So that's a way to prevent hallucinations and make sure the data is coming from a reliable source. If you want to go into where it came from one step further, you can actually see there's a PDF report with all that, right? Now to go back, you can ask other kinds of questions like, are there any known issues with the bread maker? And I'll go and give us that information. So you get the idea. It's using the power of large language models on your internal documentation, like unstructured data. So you can think of different kinds of use cases here, right? So product maintenance is one, product documentation, there's HR policies, there's legal documents, there's procurement contracts. Lots and lots of that data currently goes underutilized. And that's what the solution is for, right? Now, if we, just to take another example, is another assistant here for HR. And this answers a very different set of questions. So we can say, how can I add my dependents to the benefit plan, right? So things like that. And it'll quickly give you an answer instead of having you look around for policy and so on. So why would you do it in Qlik? Might be the question in some of your minds. Well, what we're providing is a really easy plug and play solution, especially if you're in the Qlik ecosystem. Given that you're in the user group, you must be. It fits nicely with other Qlik services you might be using, yeah, especially if you're moving to Qlik Cloud or already on Qlik Cloud. And then it works within that governance framework of Qlik Cloud, right? So if you haven't used Qlik Cloud, it's got this concept of spaces where people get access to different content, different types of content. So not just Qlik and apps, but data and machine learning experiments and assistants fit in there as well, right? So it's just another way, another kind of asset that fits into that governance framework. And of course, with Qlik, we always focus on ease of use. So there's that. And also you can embed these assistants in your other portals. We provide APIs to do that, right? So that's really, I think I'm running out of time anyway, so we'll end around there. That was a quick update on what's new, what's big and new. So Qlik Answers is something you might want to look at if you're interested in making more use of your unstructured data. Simple plug and play solution to give you reliable, consistent answers. And it looks at the explainability of those answers, provides them in a governed and secure way. So yeah, I guess while you're networking, you might discuss use cases for this, right? Because it's when you first see it, it might not sound Qlik straight away. But if you think about it, it has many applications throughout the business, like you saw in HR, in marketing, in sales enablement, in finance, contracts, and so on. All right, so I'll stop there. Any questions or comments for me?
Is this able to work on like data outside of Qlik? Because it seems like it's only being able to access documents that you upload, but is it able to reason at all?
It can actually get data from SharePoint, for example.
But it's not able to like help you answer a question that isn't inside the data set.
Yes, exactly. So basically, it won't go outside of your. I'm sorry, Nabeel. I can answer this because with Qlik Partner Ambassadors, we have weekly meetings now about Qlik Answers,
right.
Because we are doing testing and trying to come up with use cases and so on. And the thing what we found that basically it. If it goes outside of the documents that you actually provided, it may give you, it would give you probably not the answer that you want it to give the answer to. So there were some cases where it would answer something accidentally that is not in the document, but I'm pretty sure it was bug. So basically, it was something related to training of large language models. But my understanding is that it will base the answers only on the documents that were provided, uploaded into Qlik Cloud or provided externally, like SharePoint, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
right. A little bit of testing. It just had some general answers that any LLM could answer, like what one, and it said, I can't answer that for you.
Yes, because it's not part of the
even doing any reasoning.
Yes. Yes, 1 + 1, there is no answer in your document. So if you put it there, it will answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've made a conscious decision to avoid that behavior. Just for this first iteration, we want to keep it pointed on answer the questions only allowed from those documents, right? So we're preventing hallucinations. At some further point, we might open it up, right? We might open it up in the kind of instruction you want to give to an assistant, how flexible or how, there's a temperature setting, how creative you want the assistant to be. That's something further on the roadmap. Right now, we've kept it very straightforward and only able to answer on the documents you're connecting it to.
Yes, great.
How does it handle a situation where, say you've uploaded a manual, like you saw there for the bread maker, but now there's a new version of the manual, and in fact, you want it to forget the previous one and only use the latest one?
You replace the document and it will reindex it for you. Am I right, Nabeel?
That's right. So when you build a knowledge base, you can set up a configuration so that it checks for changes and it reindexes the documents. So it'll discover changes and reindex them. So what it's doing is really creating a vector database in Qlik. We don't need to store the documents in Qlik, but we create a vector database, which is used with those prompts to the language model. And that's what gets updated every time there's a change.
Yep.
Last question. Last question. Another question. What does the user interface look like? So from a user in the business, how do they come into this sort of product? Is it just like a widget or something they can easily access, or how do they get into this rather than, from a user perspective?
So it's pretty much this interface, the Q&A interface. You can embed it though, so they don't have to come into Qlik Cloud to use it. There's a simple API to embed it into, let's say, CRM system or your portal and so on.
Yep. Any other questions?
Have you ever like an object in a normal Qlik
Cloud.
application?
Can you use it as an object in a normal Qlik application? I think you can, because it's just web integration.
Right. Okay.
Yes, Nabeel? Yep. So like if you
there's an extension which is being built. It'll be released so you can use it in a Qlik Sense app. It's not quite released yet, but it's very soon coming out.
And one question from me, Nabeel. What is the plan to read actually structured data and answer the questions from structured data?
Right. So at the moment, our solution for that is Insight Advisor, right? So Insight Advisor works with your Qlik Sense apps. On the roadmap, we want to bring these two solutions together. So right now, LLMs did struggle with structured data, and Insight Advisor is maybe sometimes a bit too deterministic, like too formal and so on. So on the roadmap, we want to bring these two solutions together. The first step is we're changing Insight Advisor to start using an LLM in terms of the answer it provides in natural language. So it'll be more interesting there. And yeah, what you're thinking of is on our roadmap.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yes. Can it read the image? I don't think so. I think it's text only at the moment.
Yeah, it's text only.
It's text only.
So you can give it PDFs with images and so on, but we'll just ignore the images at this point.
But I believe it can actually read the charts, because in testing that we've done with the group, that was sometimes answer can be retrieved from the chart.
If the chart has text, that will get used. Yep.
Yes.
Is the maximum scale last year from the chart, like the report as charging?
Did you hear it, Nabeel?
No, sorry, what was that?
So the question was, would it be possible to ask the question, what is the highest sale for last year, if this information presented in the chart and text, as text?
I think that's more appropriate to use with the Insight Advisor. So Insight Advisor will answer based on your data model in the Qlik Sense app, right? So you can control what measures and dimensions it uses, and you're sure it'll give a right answer. with LLM, those things can go quite wrong at this point.
But what we found as well, that it basically does not hallucinate. So basically it does not really, like if it doesn't know the answer, it will tell you, I don't know the answer. So,
Yep.
which is
that?
yeah,
Yep.
pretty good.
It doesn't make things up.
Yeah, it doesn't make really things up, which is helpful. Anything else? Good. Thank you very much, Nabeel. That was great presentation. And I think everybody's excited about Qlik Answers now. In this instance, we will just switch to the next presentation. Let me just quickly. So Craig Harper with navigating time periods. Let me fire it up.
Hello. This presentation came out of the slings and arrows of development world, where I had a seemingly straightforward task, which proved not to be the case for me anyway. And I thought I'd try and save people who were wanting to do the same thing, the burning lakes of fire that I'd sort of swim across. So here's the presentation that comes out of that. So what are generated time intervals? So we start with a start timestamp, and we've got an end timestamp, and we want to fill in the gaps between. So we want to, in this case, produce an interval of 1 hour for each of the hours between that start and end time. Now that, for my case, it was an hour, but it doesn't necessarily need to be an hour. It could be a day, a month, 4 hours, whatever it is. And we're typically doing that using what's called the iteration number or iter-no function and the while clause in the load script. So in a nutshell, what it is, you will start out with one record. It's got a start and an end. And in this case, with those particular start and end timestamps, we'll end up with 7 records because we sort of filled in the gaps 1 hour after the other. Now, something to note from this is that you might notice that you need to have an inclusion and an exclusion. So do you include values at the start of the interval and exclude them from the end, or do you do the reverse? So I chose to exclude at the end. So in this instance, you'll see that the end timestamp is at 1800 hours. I actually have to create another record to cater for that because 1800 hours doesn't fall in at the right-hand side because that's not included, but it is included in the next record. So you need to make up your mind how you want your inclusions and exclusions when something falls right on the boundary, because it can only go into one, obviously. So what's the problem I was trying to solve? So when there's a fault on the electricity network, hopefully not very many of them, but when there are, that will have what we call an incident raised in our trouble call system. And that incident will have a start timestamp and an end timestamp or a completed timestamp. Now, if the incident is still active, so the fault crew haven't fixed it yet, then that completed timestamp will be null. But for the purpose of this reporting, we just make it now, just so that we have a time period to work with. We also have what we call a level 3 emergency event. So these are typically big events that happen on the network. So winter storms that have knocked down many trees and collapsed onto power lines and so on. Bushfires are another good example. So hopefully these are fairly rare, but we do get like half a dozen of them in a year typically. And that emergency event will have a start and an end. And what we want to be able to do is for each hour within that level 3 event, I want to know how many incidents started, how many incidents are in progress, and how many completed. So I kind of want a chart that looks like this, where the yellow indicates the ones that are in progress. Red means these are the ones that were added in. They started in that hour period. and the green ones along the bottom were the ones that were completed. So in essence, I'm trying to,
Previous one incident was added, completed, and started at the same hour. So you will count it 3 times.
that's what this is about. Thanks, Sergey, for the segue into this slide. So we've got 2 sets of times that we're trying to overlay. So you can think of the emergency event as showing here in blue. It's got a start and an end, and we want to chop that up into 1 hour time intervals. We can have an incident that already was in progress before the level 3 event was called, and it went right through and was completed sometime after it. So this might typically be an incident that is not normally associated with that event. It just happens to be work in progress. We can obviously have an incident that it started before the level 3 was called and it finished sometime within that time period. We can have an event, an incident that started and finished sometime within the period of the emergency event. And we can also, and this does happen quite a lot, where we'll have an event happen, an incident's raised, we go out and do what we call make it safe, so there's no danger to the public, but we then put it into a sort of a bucket to go and fix it completely after the fact, so that the event has essentially, we've done a tactical solution, a tactical fix, but the main fix is going to happen later. So how many 1 hour bins are needed? So here's an example. It's an incident, its duration is 35 minutes. It started within a 1 hour block and it finished within the same 1 hour block. Now, because the model that I used, I only allowed 1 status per bucket, per 1 hour bucket. So I said, well, if that's the case, then we'll just say that that incident was completed. Even though it started in the same bucket, the same 1 hour bin, and it finished in the same 1 hour bin, we're just going to say it will count as a completed. But here's another incident. It's still 35 minutes long, but it spans the boundary. So it will have 2 records. One, it started in this 1 hour bucket and it finished or completed in the other. So that will actually have 2 records. Obviously, as you expand out the time of an incident, you'll have, in this instance, it started in the 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. bucket, but then it was in progress for 2 hours, and finally it was completed in the 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. bucket. So that's actually going to have 4 bins. Yeah.
This instance, you'll be able to answer easily how many were in progress, like if you go backwards. Okay? Because basically at 8 a.m. looking at this 3, you had 3 incidents in progress. However, it will report only 1, isn't it?
Well, I'm going to have how many started, right? So there would, in this case,
3, yeah.
No, well, there's only 1 that started because the top one is completed. So there was 1 started, 1 completed, and there was 1 in progress.
They were.
Okay, well, you then, it's a definition of what do you mean by the status. So the status is I've started. So in that 1 hour block, I've started. I'm not in progress, I started, right? In the next hour, I'm in progress because I've.
That's okay. Yeah,
right.
Makes sense.
And then the next hour I completed. So I can go started, in progress, completed. Yeah. Okay, so I now want to find out how to calculate the number of bins that I need. And I can do that using the normal sort of Qlik date manipulation functions of date, floor, and so on. So what I've done is I've got the start timestamp, and by flooring it, what that does is it just cuts out all of the time component, just leaves you with the date. And then I add on the number of hours, multiply that by 24, and that will give you a decimal point number of the date and the hours, but any minutes and seconds have been thrown away. So here I've got an example where I've got a date and a time. So it's at 9:55:03 a.m. And in essence, I've just chucked away all of the minutes and all of the seconds. Now just note that this won't work. In Qlik, we can use the date function and give it a date format, in which case, days, minutes, days, months, years, and then H will give you the hours. It'll look correct. It'll appear correct, but it won't be correct because it hadn't actually manipulated the data underneath. All it's done is just display it in the way that you want to see it, but it's still got the decimal values for the minutes and seconds. So just be aware of that one. So if I've done that to the start, I then repeat the process and do that for the end timestamp, going through the same process. So if I now want to calculate the number of bins, I can take the end date and hour and subtract that from the start date and hour, and that will give me, and multiply that by 24, it'll give me the number of bins. Now, you'll note, and this is a bit that sort of stumped me for a while, I've had to use the round function. When I was doing this, I was using floor, and that doesn't work. Why is that? The answer is it's called the machine epsilon effect. And what that is due to is the way that computers store floating point numbers. So when I divide by 24 or multiply by any sort of decimal amount, because the computer can only store decimal numbers to a certain number of decimal points, and so for a double float, that's going to be 16 decimal points that it can store it to. But when you're multiplying different numbers by different amounts, you think they should be the same, but they're not quite. They're just a little bit out. And I was trying to figure out, why is this thing not adding up? And I actually, as you do, dump it out into Excel and just kept on adding decimal points and decimal points to the result. And right, this number and this number at like the 15th decimal point were not the same. And that's because of the variations in calculations to do with floating point arithmetic. So I load my data. I now want to use this function in Qlik called iteration number. So it will take my start timestamp or start date and hour, and for my end data hour, I know how many bins I'm going to generate. And so that while iteration number is less than or equal to the 1 hour bins count, we'll produce a record for each bin that I want. And you can see here that the timestamp that it will generate is also just using that iteration number. So when I start out with this start date and hour, and I know how many bins I need to create, it will actually go and then generate a record for each one of the time intervals between that start and end timestamp. So now what I need to do is say, for the incidents, I want to work out what the status is. So I need to figure out a way of saying when it starts in this time period, it should be a started status. Well, except if it actually completed in the same hour, then I want it to be completed. So by applying this piece of logic, I was able to figure out that this incident started here, it was in progress in these time intervals, and then it completed here. So at the end of the day, you can see from this, I had a pole broken or damaged. It had 4 bins. It started in the first bin, was in progress, and then it completed. So now I've got 2 sets of these iterations, these time intervals. One is from the level 3 event. The other is from the incident. If I join those 2 together, doing an inner join, what that essentially does is it chops off all of the grey bits. So you're only left with the time intervals that are in between the time periods for the level 3 event. And you can see here that those statuses will follow through into the data model, so you know how many are in progress, how many started, and how many completed. From that, it's actually fairly straightforward then to just build a chart to show in progress in yellow, the ones that have started in red, and the ones that are completed are in green. But you'll notice that they're actually negative numbers. The reason why I did that is that when you look at the stack bar chart, the red plus the yellow gives you the total number that are in progress at that point in time, right? The greens sort of subtract away from that. So by having that curve like that, I can see very clearly that we had a whole bunch of work in progress. The level 3 event started and all of this new work came in. You can see all of the red stack bar charts there. And over time, we actually started to fix these things. And so you can see the green ones coming through. And you think, well, yeah, there's still a lot of work in progress. But if you look very closely, that's like 3 a.m. in the morning. And typically we don't work our crews through the night unless we absolutely have to. And so you would have find they will very much start to get onto the work about 6 a.m. the next morning. Now there's a bunch of code, but I'll leave that if you are interested to get a copy of this presentation pack. That's it. Hopefully I've helped you to avoid some of the time I spent trying to get this to work. So yeah.
So actually this chart can only represent a current status, right? So because it's always the status of a job is always floating and the number of jobs completed in progress is always floating for a specific point of time.
Well,
Isn't time. Well, you can go back and see how many.
Yeah. You just can't go back, compare. Okay,
You
how
can.
many?
You can.
that's
You can. This is exactly what it
okay.
Yeah.
to show the change every hour. What's actually occurring every hour. It's not
yeah. So that chart says, I'm not sure if you can read it, but it says here at 6 a.m. we had all of these in progress and we had essentially 1 added. But now at 7 a.m. Now these ones that were in progress, they're probably the same ones, right? So this we had another one that was added, and so you can see as the hours go by, I can have a look and say, well, what happened in that hour? I had all of these ones which were in progress. I had new ones come in. I had ones completed fall off. So you can, the whole reason of having this sort of chart is so that when you're in an emergency management team meeting and you're talking to the various managers who are looking after the event, you can see very clearly, oh, look, you know, obviously something happened here. You know, there's been a big jump in the number of jobs. So that very clearly shows you, yeah, calling the level 3 probably was a good idea, because that means that we need all these field crews and so on. But if you were to follow that, you'll see it dive down at the end, because the event is finished, the bushfire has been put out, the storm has passed, and the chart will decline down.
There is an event which is started in the bin and ended up in the another bin. The current method is we cutting out the end time in another bin.
Yep.
What's the consideration for that, instead of like extending that to another bin? Like, instead of we just have one bin, we can have 2 bin.
Well, that's what this is all about, right?
Because the difference there is about the event, so the incident versus the event.
Yes.
So there's 2 aspects there.
So the level 3 event. Yeah. Okay.
Questions.
I'll answer them with a beer in my hand. We'll work for beer. Okay, I'll hang it over to Sergey.
I need to make some time for myself. Right. Thank you very much, Craig. That was quite interesting. And like I can tell you that we use that method, similar, not the same method, for many things, including calculate number of open purchase orders, for example, in time, or using it in HR to see how many people were working in each department at any point in time. So that's why it is a very useful method. We will publish the video later on, so you can always take a look at it. And now is my presentation. Pixel perfect. It's like, it is a big word to say pixel perfect, but we will try to make it happen. So where is my presentation? Here we go. Everybody know that pixel perfect reporting in Qlik is kind of problematic. Yeah? So that's why it used to be that thing here and printing that actually was taking care of it. So you had to buy another tool, pay quite a lot of money for that, and but you would be able to produce Excel reports, PDF reports, and all of that. The problem is with it didn't work and doesn't work with Qlik Cloud. Another approach was, and it is quite an old one, I think even before in printing, that you can always dump your files, your data as tables into CSV files and feed it into Excel and come up with whatever you want. So also an approach, but quite a clunky one, I would say. So that's why you will see some similarities to printing today in the demo that I'm going to show. I hope we'll have some time. And but the difference is that if previously in printing, like I think people who did work with that, they know that generally it's a developer's job to go to create a new report and make it happen. While now it's actually on the business side, and I will show you how. So, oops. Yes, no, sorry. Here we go. No? Okay, I'll just do this. So Qlik Add-in for Excel. What is this for? So what it is available through this reporting bit here. So in the generally you are here. Sometimes people, I can see them in storytelling, not often though. But now there is a new bit in Qlik Cloud called reporting. So what you can do with that, you can actually get chart images into PDF or Excel. You can do column level tabular data get column data from the chart and create your own report. you can come up with new new measures and put them into Excel, for example, use expressions, and then apply native Excel functionality to come up with your report. So it may look, for example, like that. So you just do this, find the object, and another object. It provides some preview for you. You can do plus, and it will come up on your Excel sheet, for example. However, I would say I do not recommend to use that. It's much better to work with the data. So let's go to the next one. So that's another way how to use variables. For example, you want to display current year, month of the report that you are displaying. So you can or use variable or come up with an expression that would give you the date that the report belongs to. So this is how tabular data looks like. You can just add it via table, the whole table straight away, or individual columns. And I actually prefer to do it with individual columns because you've got much more control, and apply some formatting. Don't forget to put delete row tag. It is helpful. I'll show you why. So levels and pages. As in printing, you can always come up with one small table and scroll through different values of a field. For example, you can create activity report with amount, but then scroll it by department. So it will create multiple tables or multiple objects for you with of the same structure, but applying different selections for each. We will do it today as well. So when you've done with some formatting, originally you can preview report by yourself, but it won't be live yet. You can do Excel or PDF. I prefer Excel by some reason. So that's report configuration. So basically in configuration, you've got not too much. You can schedule, you can get some report tasks where you, and in this instance, it's just balance sheet and management report. Then you can apply various filters to various reports or even various recipients. Then you upload these templates that you come up with. I will show you in a moment how it works, and send it out to groups of people or some particular recipients just via email. Coming up with the table of recipients is quite interesting, but it is possible. So basically, you need to load emails of people into your data model and tell Qlik that, okay, and Qlik will recognize it as a recipient. So it's a bit, I mean, not that straightforward, let's say. So how to distribute it? Basically, you do it via report tasks, and you can or send it via email or store it, for example, at SharePoint. Another way, it will be available on demand. I really like that feature. Why? Because basically, you apply different selections on your screen, click report, and it applies those selections to your report, and you get reports straight away. I'll show you this in the moment. So here we go, live demo. So we will start by opening the application because I'd like to show you how it works in general, and then we will try to come up with the report itself. So how to find it? Finance report demo comments. So this is the standard finance app. Yeah, this is generally how it may look like. It's a standard balance sheet. Yep. So there are some comments here, but we better discuss them separately or maybe over the beer. So how it generally works, you click on one line item and can take a look at details by company, or take a look at account balances, or take a look even at the transactions. However, it's not the point. This is just how to investigate things. So the main thing I wanted to show you how to generate the report. So there are a couple of them available. Let's just pick this balance sheet report. And why we may need it? Because in general, while report looks fine, it is not very much printable. So people generally would like to have it in a nicer format. So if we click here, going to reports and picking the report, then you can open it up and look at it like that, in this way, which is the same report, and it was generated according to my selection. So at the moment it's January, but if I want to do it for February, for example, I just change the selections, go here and generate it again. And now the report is generated for February. So with the appropriate comments and appropriate data. So how to make it happen? So first of all, I will start from a brand new blank workbook. And there is a Qlik Cloud add-in that allows us to create those reports and pick our application that we were working with. It takes a bit of time to connect. So after that, I forgot to show you. So on for this presentation, I actually created a couple of charts. It is just charts demo, a couple of sheets by activity, by department. Yeah, just a couple of tables. So we will rely on them in our demo. So what I can do here, I can go to tables and add a table. So as you can see, these are the sheets that are available in the app, and I can, for example, create a table by activity. How do I do that? I can create a table. I can click this plus and pick individual columns. It allows you to do the same with a table, but individual columns provides you with more flexibility. So let's just quickly convert it into the table and extend it a little bit and add one tag, delete row. Yeah, so let's call it by activity. So the second one, let's create by department. So I will go here, pick another table and say individual columns, and again, pick all columns here. And again, I'm going to convert it into table, extend it for one row and add the delete row tag. Here I can straight away change how the table look like. For example, this might be format, or this, if you like pink, but I will go with green. And call it by department. By department. Yeah. So let's take a look at the result. Preview is Excel. So as you can see, the tables got populated with the data, but it looks a little bit squashy. Let's adjust it. So in this instance, I'll make it wider, this one wider as well as this one. But also what I can do, I can make our activity report, because it's very long, to go by department. So how would I do that? In this instance, I would go to levels and pages section and add a level. So let's do it by department. Yep, fields, department, select fields to add and click add button. So in this instance, we need to move these tags above and closing tag to the bottom. And just because we want to have a name of the department quite big, we just make it big, make it bold, and that's probably enough. Another thing I wanted to do is to do some conditional formatting here using standard Excel features. Let's do it that way. And for by department chart, I'd like to make a bar chart here. So how to do that? Insert bar chart. We can change the name here if we want. Let's call it by department or just departments. That's it. So let's take a look at the result. Just click on Qlik, then the preview, and preview is Excel. It takes a bit of time now. Here we go, downloads. And this is our result. How does it look? I think it's not too bad. Let's take a look at the chart. Yeah, the chart looks good. So one more thing I wanted to do is create a transactional report where people can actually create more things by themselves. So how to do that? In this instance, I would use a table that has actually transaction details, and I would navigate to add table, navigate to my sheet transaction details, and add GL transactions table as individual columns. I'll pick them all, make them as a table, as usual, insert table, yep, extend it by one row and add this delete row tag, and then maybe extend it a little bit so it's a little bit wider. So after that, I'd like to insert a pivot table and use it as a source. So this one would be transactions. Yep, and this one would be pivot. So let's create a pivot table now. So I want actuals, but as values, and it's going to make it sum. And I want financial year as row, as rows, and financial period as columns. So let's make it a little bit wider. Here you can also change the formatting of pivot table if you really need. So the design, make it green again. In addition to that, you can always add an object, for example, your own logo. Let me just make it happen. So how can I do that? Just go here, add chart, and on charts demo, I have this as my logo. You can wait for preview, but it takes a bit of time. So this is just our logo. I can add the chart here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, let's preview it. Preview it in Excel. Yeah, you can also add charts here if you'd like, but I prefer to build charts just using the data. Here we go. So this is our original report. Okay, here we go. We've got pivot table with year and periods, plus our logo. And these are transaction details. So now in pivot, if you'd like, you can add transaction type. You can remove period if you wish to, or move it to the rows. So some people would call it as a self-service, isn't it? So it looks good. So pretty much done. So let's just try to make it happen. So we would add this report into our platform. So let's call it report test v2. And what do we need to do? We just need to go here into reports in area, to templates, and upload the template. So I'll pick this report v2. And the only thing that's left is to enable it for on-demand generation. I'll enable it as Excel and give it the name report V2. Save. So now if I go to sheet, and make it happen for 1 month only, because we don't need that many months. This is February report. Let's just in case make it month to date. Report V2. Yes, that was much better. So pivot, yes, it shows us only February, which is period 8. It shows us appropriate transactions and numbers by department. This is it. Any questions? It was interesting experience because we created balance sheet management report, P&L for one of the companies, and the problem that was on demand wasn't available in before June. So, and basically I spent some time trying to figure out how to make it to send an email to the user who actually pressed the button. And it did work. So basically, user would log in, press the button, would get an email within, depending on the mail system, but within 1 minute, 3 minutes, something like that. But as soon as we send it to customers saying, here we go, it works, Qlik released, it was roughly Qlik around Qlik Connect, Qlik released this on-demand feature. So basically that send by email thing, I mean, it's still useful, because you want to schedule some reports like that. But if you want something like that, is just, and some people started to use it as users, I mean, to make it all happen by themselves. So however, you need to get used to it. Yeah. So any other questions? No? Okay, in this case, let's finish it off. Do you have anything to present? Talk to me. So yeah, 10 to 30 minutes as usual. If you want to share something, yeah, please come. Our next one is 28th of November. This is our committee members. Bye. If you have any questions, just reach out to us or to me. If you want to join us as well, you can. There is still one spot left. The same as last year, let's say. Any questions? In that case, let's call it. And thank you very much for attending. I think it's great to see you here. Thank you.